So on today's competence video, we're going to talk about the benefits of strength training for running athletes. Hi and welcome to today's competence video with us at Goat Sports. My name is Adrian Skepi. Together with me is my colleague Martin Franta. And today we have a special guest, Swedish long-distance runner Kristofer Låås. So Kristofer, tell us a little bit about yourself for our viewers.
Yes, well, I'm a long-distance runner, 33 years old, living in Kungsängen outside Stockholm with my girlfriend and dog and cat. I'm also working full-time as a project manager at the Swedish TSO called Svenska Kraftnät. So we're building the power grid in Sweden.
When you started training, you were in team sports, and then you shifted to running. So when did that happen and how did that happen?
Yeah, so actually I was playing with Martin football outside Stockholm until I was like 24, 25. And I studied at Royal Institute of Technology here in Stockholm. And I realized that I didn't have enough time to play football and also study, and I was focusing on a career in civil engineering. So at some point I went down the divisions with football so I can focus more on studies. And then I realized that I had some talent in running as well, especially during the interval sessions with the football team. My dad and my granddad and his dad, they were all runners. Especially my dad of my granddad, he was elite runner for the Swedish national team.
Really?
100 years ago. So that's a long time ago, yeah. And so I had some sort of talent and also in the DNA to be a runner. So I wanted to do well in my first marathon race. And the week before the marathon, I did a small 10K race and I actually won it. So I was like, okay, I got some good, what's it called?
Confidence?
Yeah, confidence, exactly, from that, going into the marathon, and I completely blew up. So I did a really fast half, and then the second half was just horrible. And I finished somehow, even though I started walking towards the end. But I got under 3 hours in my first marathon.
Wow.
And I was standing after the finish line when you walk out and you get some drinks and so on. And I was actually standing, leaning to a fence and almost fell asleep. And my family came to me and was like, do you need some help? I was like, oh, I don't know. And felt really bad. And I felt like never again. But then 1 or 2 hours afterwards, I was like, yeah, I think I'm addicted to running.
Then you're back for more.
Yeah.
Well, it's fun coming from a long line of runners.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So after that, you started running more. When we Google running and we start people want to start running, we see that people just want to chase the kilometers. What are some other things that you should think about when you start running?
The most common mistake is that you run too much in the beginning, so you get injured. And so you have a period of maybe 2 to 3 months where everything's just really nice about running.
Yeah.
And then you get injured and then you need to back down with the training and then coming back again and so on. And there's a long process of just really weird injuries, because it's not like when you were playing football, you tear a hamstring or whatever. And it's very clear what the injury is. Yeah. But in long distance running, they come sneaking up on you, the injuries. So I think for me, I think the best tip I could give is also listen to your body and do proper recovery and make a plan with your increase of running. Because I mean, if you want to be a good runner, you need to run a lot, but a big thing that most people miss is the recovery part.
Yeah. So what do you do for recovery, like sleep, food, other stuff, and training in the gym?
Yeah. If you compare my times with other runners that run around my PBs, personal best, I would say that I run less than most of them, but I do a lot of walking. We have a dog, like I said before, so I do, instead of a morning jog, I usually do a morning walk with my dog, and I think that could somehow take you don't need to run all the time. You can also do some walks. So that's, I think, something you can do for recovery instead. Not chasing mileage, but chasing time moving, sort of. But also focusing on sleep. I think it's very important. So it could be a bit stressful sometimes when you're out with friends or whatever, that you don't get enough sleep. But at home, I always sleep 8 or 9 hours, even though I'm working. So focusing on sleep, and also just listen to your body, which could be very difficult in the beginning, because like I said, everything's very nice and you just want to run more. But maybe take 1 or 2 like steps down to just focus on how am I actually feeling, should I rest more. Also, I think a coach is very good to have, because most of my running colleagues, they run too much. I can it's the same
so
for
if
me.
you're listening, you run too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's very common that you want to just chase mileage and you feel good and you just run more. No one has a problem with running too little.
So we know that you're a professional runner. How much do you run per week? And what are the same like runners in other different, how much do they run per week?
I don't run as much as maybe my competitors, but I still run a lot, I would say. So I run maybe 100 kilometers per week, like an average week.
That's a lot.
Sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on competitions, if I feel some injuries or if I'm doing some more alternative training. Like last weekend I was skiing instead. So there's a lot of my mileage is actually just zone 2 training, which you can change to other stuff as well. So in the winter time I like to do some skiing instead, or in summertime biking, for example. So, and my competitors, if they're not working full time, maybe they do 180 kilometers. There's one Swedish guy right now who's probably the best Swedish runner we ever had, Andreas Almgren. He set the European record recently in 10K. He's doing like 200 kilometers per week. But that's in the base training before the season.
All right.
So during season, most of them run less, but it's like you need to be running at least around 100 kilometers per week to get some really good training to be able to compete, I would say.
For yourself, you're talking about all these different, and I hear that it goes up sometimes, it goes down sometimes. It's prior to competitions, and I know that you do some strength training as well. So what are like some main things that strength training has helped you with?
I started running quite late, and my PBs I just started getting better and better. But then you get to a certain point where it's hard to improve or to be faster. And I think you need to change something. And for me, I started doing proper strength training, and that got me to another level of running.
Nice.
So I think probably the best exercises was for my hamstrings and my ass as well. And also we did a lot of focus on single leg exercises. So I'm almost stronger in single leg exercises than both with my legs.
I mean, that's good for your sport. It's very rare you have contact with both legs. That doesn't happen.
If you fall, maybe.
After a certain tempo, then that's it. You're one-legged.
So it got me to another level, and actually it made me be more confident. When competing, you can either focus on time or the competition. And for me, it's more about competition. So I like to compete with others. For example, the Swedish Championship, I like to have a top 3 or top 5 goal instead of running at, I don't know, 2:22 minutes or sub 2:20, which is a very specific time that people aim for. But for me, it's more about the competition. And I went from being more focused on time to be able to do some more competition-based competitions. So, and that got me to the other level as well, I think. So with some more confidence from strength training and be able to push a little bit more, I got to another level.
Very nice.
So we know that strength training also helps to decrease injuries. Was that something that you also felt with strength training?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't been injured so much before. One thing the only thing I could see was my Achilles heels. That was quite poor before I started strength training, but now I haven't have any issues after that. So I don't know if it's a correlation or not, but it could be.
But it helps you stay more on the running field and not get injured and be off running. So
yeah, and also I feel like my running stride has become a little bit better, especially with my hamstrings. Because I went to a running coach and he told me that you're not using your hamstrings enough. So that's when we started actually. And I feel like I have a better connection with my hamstrings now.
All right, great. Well, you mentioned before that you run 100 kilometers a week.
Roughly.
Yeah. And some people don't know, but that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. Even if you run fast, it takes a lot of time. And you're working full time. You're working 100%. So that takes a lot of time as well. So the question I want to ask is like, what drives you to get like these kilometer after kilometer, week after week, with everything else going on? Because it's not easy. You know, some people just like, oh, Kristofer, he just goes out and runs. Yeah. You know, but like, what drives you to like keep pushing?
Yeah. So like my motivation has always been competition. So I really like to compete. I don't like the training so much, but I feel like you need the training to be able to compete at a certain level. Yeah. So that's why I do a lot of competitions, and maybe my mileage goes down a little bit because of that. But then also it's like maybe 5 or 6 times out of 10 runs, it's very nice to go out and run because it's nice weather and like you get the endorphins and it's sunny and you know everything. Sometimes maybe three times out of 10 it's really bad. You don't want to go out, it's cold and dark. And I think it's at that time you need to have some sort of motivation, like a deeper inner motivation to do it. And for me it's what I said, is the competitions. You think about, I want to be in shape for the next marathon, maybe Stockholm Marathon. I want to be good at Stockholm Marathon, so that's why I'm doing the training.
I mean, we need to have some goals rooted in something, like you said, with depth, to make sure that we can push through those days when the weather's not perfect, the sun is not in the sky, like all those days, because they're those that count. So thank you so much for being with us and sharing your experiences and tips and everything. So what we can summarize is technically that no matter what we do, we need to kind of anchor that in some goals. We need to make sure that we can take help from professionals and make sure to find out what works for us, put that into a goal and root that in something that actually means something, not just have something too wide. And until next time, thank you guys so much for watching our competence video. We'll see you next week on our channels. And until then, take care.